Okay, in part 3, we're going to cover doing the finishing touches, so adding the materiality to these objects. We'll start looking at putting some annotation, but for now we're going to focus on using some materiality to denote certain things like the DPM, those kind of things. So the waterproofing and dampproof courses, okay, just because if it's an exterior type, there won't be any DPM. The only time you're going to be using a DPM will be to waterproof certain objects, and maybe we use a DPM to prevent water from penetrating the face brick over here. But I think the first thing we need to focus on is just using hatches correctly, and start looking at how we would fill, so how they would probably fill this up a bit better, making this little stainless steel detail, using like a stone detail hatch over here, using a water hatch over here, okay, those kind of things. Okay, adding some planting, adding this edging, for example. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do on this elevation over here is focus on using some good hatch work. Okay, so hatch, enable hatch. So here we're going to go back to hatch. Now this is going to be slightly different, because what we want to do here, we want to use a predefined hatch. So instead of using these, you're going to say user defined. Okay, and now user defined, if we click these properties down, they will start giving you some more information. So you can make these double hatches. You can make it a double hatch, for example. You can add angles. But for now, I'm going to make it a horizontal brick coursing. So the spacing is going to be 85 mil. Just remember, it's a 75 mil brick course with a 10 mil joint. So 85 mil. I'm going to set an origin so that this works correctly, so that I can make sure I've set my origin over there. And now if I try and hatch over here, what's happening is, just remember, sometimes there's going to be holes where it'll try and hatch past. Yes, I've got this construction line, so it's doing it correctly, and it will pick up this boundary, but it won't technically work as well. Okay, so sometimes if you're finding it difficult, it won't hatch, then the best thing to do, let me just go, and you can see that brick coursing has worked perfectly, because I've specified that this is my origin, and the brick coursing has worked. If I explode this hatch, if I went home and I went to explode, and I went to go and measure DI from there to there, guess what? 85 mil. That's exactly what I want. So let's get rid of all of this hatch work. Let me just undo that. Undo, 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 undo. Okay, so what happens sometimes? Let me get rid of these lines. If I try and hatch now, hatch, remember user defined, 85 mil. If I try and hatch now, hatch, select objects, no, sorry, pick points, it won't hatch because it's saying there's too many open. So what you might have to do is you might have to use some construction lines. So you might have to go find your construction line layer, polyline, and you might just have to close. You might have to create a closed. You might have to create a closed set of line work over here. But like what I'm doing, this would be fine. So I'm just going from there to there. I'm just closing it off. Now if I go to hatch, just make sure the hatch layer is activated. Hatch. Now if I go to hatch, it will hatch fine. Just remember, I need to change the origin. So set origin. I want this to be my origin over here. There we go. Okay, so it's changed my origin. So that's worked pretty well. And I can just get rid of this construction layer. Okay, that's kind of worked. It's done exactly what I want to do. This hatch, yes, doesn't have to go past. You can neaten that up, but in essence, it's done exactly what I wanted to do. This is slightly different. Okay, the only difference with this water feature now is that I've got a spout that I need to showcase. Okay, so that I'm going to quickly put in its location. So X line, and that's coming off this finished surface going up. Okay, so that 1800, I actually started at the wrong point. So that's quite interesting. So this one I'll have to stretch this from, shift from there to 1800. Okay, generally we try and dimension off a structural object, not a finishing object. Okay, but in this case, your finish, that's fine because they'll stone it. It's a stone cladded wall. So that's just what's going on there. Okay, so here we can see, so it's 800 by 50. So I'm going to use a rectangle. So for this, you can go and make a whole new layer. You can call it fittings, for example. I'm just going to use the wind layer to do this. Let's just make it, here's my notes layer that I need. That's all I need. I don't need this text information. Let's make a new layer and just call this water spout. I'm going to call it water fitting. Yeah, because it's not technically a spout. Anyway, we'll see. Water fitting, we'll just leave it at that layer. That's fine. And I can just simply go and find the water fitting layer. Okay, but in essence, you just want to use layers correctly. Okay, water fitting layer, just change that to white. Okay, this one we're going to change to 0.18. Okay, great. I'm going to say rectangle, shift at 800 by 50. Okay, now I can say move this one, shift in the middle, and I can just simply move this, shift middle, shift from, perpendicular, and 250. Okay, that looks good to me. And then I'm just going to add some more detail in this object. So here I'm going to say offset 10 mil. Okay, and then this bit of line work, I can just use a trim command. Extend, trim, and I'm going to select this top bit of line work, and then I'm going to use extend command, boundary. I'm going to select this side, and I'm going to select this side over here. Okay, that's all I have to do. Now I can hatch this object. Just remember, construction line, X line, horizontal. Now I'm just going to hatch this. I can delete that white line in a minute. And I'm going to make this my current layer again. So home, set make current layer. I'm going to go to hatch. So hatch. Okay, now with hatching, here we're going to use a pattern again. So here we're going to say pattern. Here we're going to go and find, like, you can click this to get a better look and feel, but I know that this hatch pattern is here somewhere. Sometimes you get access to different ones, so here it is here. And this one I'm going to change angle 90 degrees. Okay, and I'm just going to drop it in for now. Okay, that's very small. It's not quite the right hatch pattern, so let's just see if we can find something else. So while the hatch is selected, you can go and find a different pattern. This is one of these clay. It might be one of those patterns that we've used from an older version. Okay, but I can show you where to load this. I'll give you guys an option to where you can load this from. But for this exercise, just find something that will work kind of well. Okay, let me just see. Sometimes it gives me, I don't want gradients, I just want patterns. Patterns. Just find something that will work. I'll just use this clay layer. Yeah, all you're doing is just signifying stone. I'll just do this for stone for now. Okay, then just change its scale. I'll give you access to more of these, but this is purely just for this exercise. Okay, that doesn't really work too well. I prefer the horizontal line, so let me just go and find those horizontal. Let's just use that and then change the scale to 20. 25. Yeah, that will work for me. Okay. Right, so that's my stone layer. It's just redefining materiality, so that will help us a lot. Okay, now that I've got all that in play, I can start getting rid of this information. Okay, now all we have to start doing now is just adding some water materials. So for that, I can just say water, just put my water layer on. And this is where we can start using some colors. Just go back here. Let's go and find my water layer. Okay, there's no water layer, so just make new one. Water. Change this to give it a nice blue color. Okay, that's fine. I can stay at 0.2. Everything works fine. So here I can use a spline. So I can go here and go spline tool, and I can shift R, switch off F8, and here I can can just do something like that, make that the water layer. Okay, so that's just a spline tool that allows us to, we can add more, you can add more waves. That's totally up to you. You can make it look more wavy, but that's going to be where my water locates. Now we're going to start focusing on putting in different types of line weights. So here we have a DPM layer. So a DPM layer we can use for and using different line types. We're going to get to that in a second, but now we're going to start looking at a DPM, so damp-proof coarse membrane and those kind of things, okay, which I'd actually already deleted. So let's just create a new one. It should have been a DPM layer. I did tell it to keep it, but anyway. New DPM or waterproofing, it doesn't matter. Leave it on the gray layer, that's good for now. And I usually leave it gray. This is quite a thick line. It's usually about 0.5 mil, 0.4 mil thereabouts. I'll make it 0.5. And this is a dashed line. Okay, so this is going to be dashed. Press OK. And we're not sure of the scale just yet. So this is where line weight starts taking in, you might have to do some extra settings. So over here where we select our line settings, if you click this and you go to other, it opens this dialog box and you're going to say show. So here you want to maybe change this, depends on the scale that you're working to. I'm going to leave it for 1 for now, but generally if it's a building, a large building, we give this a scale factor of 10. Otherwise for these small details, I'll leave it at 1. Okay. All right, now with my DPM layer, so let's go to my layers, let's go to DPM. So it's dashed. Okay, I'm going to make that my current. And now I'm going to go and say polyline. And for now, I'm just going to do this very roughly, F8, because I can use my stretch tool to bring it back as close as possible. Okay. So here I'm just tracing more or less. Or alternatively, what you could have done was go polyline, you work along this line over here. So here you're just going to say polyline, and you're going to follow this line work quickly. And it usually stops underneath this bit of brickwork. They usually, it's about there. You're going to say offset 5 mil. And then you can delete this other one. Okay, and you can see the line, it's not exactly, it's not looking correct. So this guy, you're going to go and say Control 1. And that layer scale, let's make it 0.5. Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough. Okay, and it's starting to read nicely. It is reading well. We'll start looking at it on our sheet in a second. Just one thing to bear in mind, concrete, they can never cast perfectly square, so they put in like a filler piece. It's just because if big pieces of aggregate stick, it breaks out these corners, so just bear that in mind. I can show you how to fix it very quickly, but for what we're doing, just bear that in mind in future. You can never have a perfect corner in concrete. Okay. All right, so now I've got my DPM in place, and it usually gets tucked underneath this brickwork, and then this brickwork, maybe this tile, that might overhang a fraction. So what we could do is, but for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to leave it like that, and you'll find that your waterproofing will go up to that level over there. You do get waterproof concrete, but it's just very expensive, so it's not worth doing it in this situation. So you're going to use some sort of waterproofing, okay, and we leave it just like that. Okay, so now you can see we've got our pull line. This is starting to look good, so I'm just going to grab one more piece of line work later there and use my match tool, because technically you're going to have that kind of detail in the background. Here's my water line, and your water line will never go over this point over here. You're going to have a submersible pump. You might show that information. Yeah, you might have a pump built into this structure. You could have a hollowing out later on, but for now this is good enough. Okay, all right, so I've got my DPM in place. Let's just go to my sheet. Let's just see how it's starting to look. One thing on my sheet very quickly, LA, lock the viewport 1 to 20, that's fine, and LA. Now we can start tweaking and setting up our, this is part of the process. We'll tackle this a bit better later on, but for now I just want to kind of get it going. So I'm going to say, I'm going to make a working drawing. This one I can remove, delete. Delete that one, yes. Okay, close. Select all my layers, Control A. Just order them by color. And now all of these, except for these ones, I'm going to make all of them, everything else will be white. Okay. That's what I want. Okay, go back to your layer settings. Just make sure that you update this so that it adopts the new settings. Okay, so here we've got our DPM layer, and you see it's starting to work well. You might have to tone it down, but at scale 1 to 20, this detail is reading quite nicely. Okay, so this concrete's cutting nicely, these concrete blocks are cutting nicely, the line weights are working well, the hatch is working well. It's very legible. Okay, so now this is looking good. So we're on the right track. We've got our hatch working well, we've got our DPM working well. We might have to tone down our DPM thickness a fraction, but it is reading how we want it to read. Okay, so that's important. It's starting to read correctly. Okay, I don't have to worry about setting up any more information here. I'm just going to go back to my section and go and focus on some more of the finishing details now. Okay, now I've got my water, I've got this kind of information. So from a sectional point of view, all I've got left to do, I don't have to keep referring back to this for now. I can always zoom, I can change my viewports back. So viewport, I'm going to change this to one viewport. Okay, now I'm working with one viewport. This is going to be easier that way. I can always refer to this image or scale it up, put it to the side here. Okay, so this guy, I can just grab this corner and scale it up manually as well. And move this over here somewhere. And I can stretch all this information. Make sure all your layers are on. I can pull this a bit closer because I want to work closer. Okay, so that's working fine. This is going to work well. All I have to do now is I need to introduce my fill layer. So I'm just going to use an offset 150. So compaction happens in layers of 150. Okay, so this is fine. What I am going to do, I can keep this polyline as is, go to home, I can use a trim command, and I'm going to get rid of this end over here, and I'm going to get rid of this end over here. The rest of the line work I can delete. This is no longer required. And then this one I can change to a fill layer. Okay, so we're going to have a natural ground line. Here, this I need to explode, just so while we're here, explode that. And then we can explode this block one last time. Explode, because then I'll cut this block. Okay, there we go. All right. So that's working well. Right, so now we're going to start introducing our fill. So here we're going to go and add some new layers. So a new one will be NGL, natural ground line. And you'll have to update your, so we're going to go NGL, natural ground line. This will be color, usually we give this a color of yellow, for example. Natural ground line, should have changed, don't know why it will change. Okay, this line is also 0.5, I'll leave it just like that. That's good for now, it's not dashed, it's a solid line. Continuous line. Okay, that's good. And one last layer called fill. Fill. Okay, this is going to be a 9, color 9, and then this is usually quite thin. This is usually about 1.5, there and thereabouts. Okay, good. All right, so this is going to become fill. Okay, now we're going to draw a polyline. So our natural ground line might start over here. So that's going to be my natural ground line. You don't want to create a tripping hazard. So if you're coming off like a lawn service, just remember that will be your natural ground line over there. And this one I'm going to say copy that side. I'm going to put it over here. Okay, so maybe 5 mil, move 5. Yeah. Move 5. Okay, now this is fill. Usually we have an angle of repose, so this will stop over there somewhere. That's fill. Here they'll probably do something like this. This might just be one continuous. So this they might just maybe. So here we can press Control and we can add and we can minus. So Shift, I think. Let me just say Control minus. Yeah, Control twice minus. Okay, so maybe that's what they'll do over there, that they'll pull back. That's fine, and then this last angle they'll pull back over here somewhere. Okay, just remember when they're digging a trench to cast all the stuff, you have angles of repose and all that kind of information, but this is good enough for now. Now, usually how we indicate fill is we use these type of 45-degree bits of line work. Okay, so let's just switch off F8, and I can switch on my polar snap. So here, I can snap at 45-degree angles. So here you can say, I want to snap at 45-degree angles. So now, So what we used to do was show it like this, but we found in the past, because of how complex this gets, I tend to use a different hatch. Form C, yes, but for this, I'll show you I use a different hatch. Okay, just go to my hatch layer again, hatching. Okay, here I'm just going to go and say hatch, and I'm going to go and find my hatching layer. I think this top one will work. That will work fine. Okay, so here we've got a hole. We've got some holes here. Here we just need to start using, so construction line, vertical, put one there, I'll put one there. That'll sort it out. So I'm going to go hatch, there, and there. Done. Okay, this I can scale up by 2 maybe, make it 15. Okay, so that's that kind of layer. That's that line there. Now the rest is just going to be natural earth. Okay, here we just can use a construction line because we're going to delete it in any case. Polyline, so I'm just going to go and grab this information, F8. So here I'm just simply, very broadly, just following this information. Okay, and then here simply I can use the trim tool to trim that back up there, but this I'm also going to make it so in line with that. There we go. Hatch. I'm just using the same hatch, doesn't matter, and then I'm going to go and select the pattern over here. So pattern, I'm going to go and find, here it is over here. I'm going to change this to 1 and 45 degrees, 45. So there's your natural ground hatch. Okay, so maybe that needs to be 0.5. There we go. And then we can delete this layer because we don't need it anymore. Okay. I forgot to. Hey, what's neat is it'll give me these grips. So like we fixed polylines, if I press Control. So once this is active, I can then, so that's neat. And then lock it, F8. And then I can add one more Control and then use this grip over here. Okay, we're using hatches, so this is not going to work as well. Just press R. What's neat is I can use X-line vertical. I can use a trim command to trim hatch as well. Trim, say T for crossing, select this object here, hatch, it cuts everything. So I can trim hatch as well. Okay. So there I've got my natural ground line, X-line vertical. I'm going to do the same over here. Trim, trim, come on, spacebar, that and that. There we go. Okay, just remember this is giving you a control box, so you can control this hatch later on. That's totally up to you, but generally that's how I would show it. Okay. All right, so here I've started setting up. So this is pretty much done. You can put a water hatch, but for this example, I'm not going to worry about that too much. Now we're going to start focusing on adding some hatch. So showing these patterns and where this pattern starts. So here I can use these to set out. Okay, now we're going to make a different type of user hatch. Now, just remember we've got the technical spacing for this hatch. If we had to do this correctly, we'll have to introduce this gap over here. So a good spacing would be 310 mil, or if you want to use the middle, you're going to use, but generally, I'm going to use 310 as my hatch guide because technically, yes, and you have to provide a mortar joint. Just remember, we need joints, a sand joint, and they put sand over this when they're done, a very fine sand, and it goes in between the joints, and they brush it off, and it beds these things, they fit nicely, okay. It's not like applying tiles, it's a bit differently. It's like they use a type of sand, okay. We can use hatches to kind of pick this up correctly. So if you want to introduce a hatch, the actual tile with its tolerances, you can introduce that. But for this exercise, we're just showing materiality. So here I'm going to go and say hatch, and I'm simply going to pick this over here, spacebar hatch, spacebar hatch. Okay, I want to change this hatch. I want this to be user defined, and here I'm going to change this to 300. Okay, but remember I want to add some, it needs to be double, exactly that, and pick its origin over there. So that's where they would set the tiles out from and work in this direction. And you can see it's worked well. Here they'll cut around here, that's good. Now I can just simply use the match tool. I want to match this hatch with that hatch, with that hatch. Okay, select this hatch over here, change its setting out point. So the setting out point you want to adjust. So just say set, and here we can say there. Here we might have to adjust it to match this one over here, for example. Okay, so here you'll need to work out exactly. So pick origin there, if you want these to match. Or pick hatch, set origin there. Okay, but now we've got to come back in that direction. So you might have to explode this to pick a point over here to start from. So maybe that's what we can do. But there is a way to snap to hatching. I don't switch it on just because it's very annoying. Okay, so this hatch over here, I'm just going to just select the hatch, Control 1. Sometimes it'll allow you to adjust the origin. So here, origin X, Y, and Z. So here we can go and guess it roughly. Dimension. So let's just guess this, how much it's out by. Uh, 29 mil, 30 mil. Okay, but what I can do is copy this information from there, copy that to there, and then I can just simply go click this hatch again, just want a line work, and then I can say set origin, boom, sorted. There we go. Okay, now sometimes you want these to line up, so this is where it starts getting tricky. So I might want to use again line that point there and line that point with that. Select this hatch over here. Now you're going to go and set its origin over there. Then everything lines up, but you just remember you're going to have a lot of cutting here and a lot of cutting there. So that technically, strictly is not working out. Let me just make sure this is working out. X line vertical. Yeah, you see we've introduced, and here we've had a cutter tile at the back. Okay. But I mean, for the sake of this exercise, just understand that you can use your hatch to generate. So you can see I've generated that hatch quite quickly. Now the next set of hatch I need to create is this coursing, brick coursing for that. So this is 60, so it'll be 70 mil. So I'm going to go and grab a hatch again. I'm going to say hatch. Again, just select this object over here and then use the match tool. I'm going to match this tool from here with that. Okay, just remember this will need to be 90. Okay, and now this one's different because it's 70 mil because I'm including a 10 mil. And then I'm going to say pick origin. I'm going to pick this origin over here. Okay, so that's where that will start. You'll have to cut a bit of a brick there. Likewise, hatch. So I'm going to go hatch. Now I'm going to say match properties. I'm going to use this one over here and hatch this guy. Spacebar, spacebar. This is going to be different. We're going to use some line work. So while the hatch is active, there's been line work there. Be a 45-degree angle over here, for example. 45-degree angle over here. Okay, 45-degree angle over here. Okay, now we're going to go and use the hatch tool again. Hatch, enter, hatch, enter, hatch. We don't want to keep adding all of them, otherwise we won't be able to adjust them. Enter, hatch, enter. Okay, this one I'm just going to adjust. Okay, I didn't make a boundary, so that one I'm going to have to fix. So I'm going to go hatch, there, 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 enter. Okay, so now this one, this bit of hatch over here, I'm going to just change this to be 0. And then use the match tool. So this one will equal that one. If you had done the hatch in one command, you wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now. Okay, because they'll be living together. So you can see very quickly to do this hatch, it's pretty straightforward. Now, this hatch's origin I'm going to set over here. This hatch's origin I'm going to set over here. Strictly, this might not work in this corner over here. We might be lucky. See here, the pattern's not working. So you might have to do some cutting here to get this to work. But just understand that this can be done. Okay, set origin. I'm going to pick it over here. So here we might have a cross. That's not going to work too well. And then this pattern, we can also select this. Set point will work from, set point, so it'll work from there. This one will work from, set point will work from there. Okay, so here you can adjust the dimensions to make this work, because maybe you don't want to cut a brick. So I'll leave it like that, but just bear in mind that that's exactly what's going to happen there. Okay. All right, now I think we're pretty much done. We just need to put some water hatch in some of these. So again, I can get rid of all these construction lines. I don't need them anymore. We can always bring them back, get rid of these dimensions, because we will sort that out later. But very quickly, just having a quick look at this, you can see my drawing is starting to take shape. Okay, now we can start introducing some planting. So X line, vertical, one there, horizontal, one there, because we're going to introduce some planting, one there, and vertical there. X line, vertical. And these I can just make one hatch. So I'm going to go hatch, I'm going to pick there, and there. This is just going to be like a sand layer, because technically it's planting, so we can just use a pattern for this. And I'll just go and find a sand pattern here. Sand, that's good enough for now. And that will be scale 1 or maybe 2. Yeah, because that's just planting. And now we can go and find a nice wavy layer, hatch. This can be water. I know that there are some wavy patterns, so let me just find some. Like I said, if we can't find a good pattern to use here, we'll make a plan. I'll give you access to some of these more wavy type. I know there are some. We do use them, like herringbone. We can use some of those, but there is a wavy pattern. I've used them in the past. Okay, so for this, we can just use this flexi one for now. It's just donating water. Make it 50. This will be 45. Okay, that's just going to be our water layer. Okay, hatch. Okay, match. Okay, but you can just use a series of polylines or splines. Okay, but I'll give you access to more hatch patterns. There are a lot more. Okay, so I'm just going to hatch again. Let's see if it allows us to load in a new library. Okay, I'll have to go and load some more hatch patterns. But there is a way you can load more of these, and you do get wavy. You get all different types of these hatch patterns. Okay. Oh, but for the water, that's fine. We'll leave it just like that. That's good for now. Okay, so that's my water layer. This is planting. The rest of this is kind of done. That's quite neat. Okay, so now the last thing I'm just going to do part of this step is just to kind of add some furniture. So introducing some furniture. Now we've got a situation where we might have to trim, because our furniture will sit on top of this, so we might have to trim some of the stuff out, but we can just simply use the trim tool to do this. Okay, so that's where the trim tool comes in quite nicely. Okay, so I'm going to make 2 benches. I'm just going to make one bench that I'll place around. I'm not going to go into the same amount of detail, because for the sake of this exercise, you'll be doing the same. So I'm just going to make one bench I'm going to put over here, and I'll put one bench here and one bench over there. Okay, for example, I can put a bench there or there. Okay, so I'm just going to make a bench. Go to the furniture layer, fern, furniture layer. I did definitely, there was a furniture layer that was here, which is now gone as well. Okay, I'm going to go make a furniture layer. I definitely tell it to keep that furniture layer, but anyway. New fern. This is layer 9. It's okay. And that's also at 1.8. There we go. Make that my current layer. Furniture layer, make current. Okay. And now I'm just going to go and create some furniture. So I'm going to create a rectangle. So shift at 1500 by 450. Okay, so this is a typical size for a bench for somebody to sit on. Okay, so I'm going to go rectangle. I'm going to make it look like a series of planks. Okay, so I'm going to grab this layer, copy this. Okay, so I'm going to change this into stretch from there. Let's make these 100 wide. Okay, do this. So I'm just going to use these to set up my bench over this other one. Copy this one. So now I can use the array tool. So here I can use array tool. So I'm going to say from here, Okay, I want to go between, might need 4 of these. Okay, so we need 4. I just need to change the spacing of these. So with my array selected, okay, I only want 1 row and the stove. 1 of those, 4 of those, 4. And total 450. That's looking like it's working well. Okay, now. Okay, let's undo. Let's add 1 more. Let's change the spacing. Let's try and get this to fit. Let's make the spacing 410. Spacing 120. 110. 110 will work. Row spacing 120. Let's make it 1. You know what you can do. Sorry, I wiped it there. This guy I can move to there, perpendicular. Okay, let me just pull this to the side. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've got 1, 2, 3 spacing. So we're going to have a leftover, so those are hundreds. We're going to have 40 mil divided by 3. Okay, 40 mil divided by, no, it's 50 mil divided by 3. So 50 divided by 3 equals to 16.5. Oh, it's a horrible dimension, that. Let me just work this out. So it's going to be 116 point. Yeah, it's not going to work out nicely. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this planks a little smaller. So let me just go and edit the source object. So you can go and edit the source object. So you can select the source. It doesn't matter. I'm going to make these guys. Let's make them there. I'm going to make them 75. Enter. Let me just check the eye. Didn't do what I told it to do. Yep. So this one I can go from there, from perpendicular 75. That's better. Okay, that's great. So I can say save changes to my. Okay, now this one I can increase. I can say I want 1 more. And now I'm going to decrease this spacing a bit. Okay, so now we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 divides. That's good enough for now. Okay, so let's just move this guy there to there. Okay, so we've got 75, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So let me just do that calculation quickly. Okay, so 75 times by 5 equals, gives me 375, minus by 450 equals to, divided by 4 equals also 18.75. Okay, copy that. So it's going to be, the spacing between these guys is going to be 75, and we can use this, we can use an expression here. So it's 75 plus 18, so plus by 75 equals, so it's 1875 plus by 17.5. So here we can go and say, usually gives us a calculator to do this expression note. So let me just type in No, it doesn't quite work that way. That's interesting. That is interesting. Let me just say plus by 18.75. Does that work perfectly? Okay, that worked perfectly. All right. Great. I can get rid of that now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just creating a rectangle. So I'm going to create another rectangle along here. It's just to show the struts beneath are from there to there. This is not, doesn't have to be that. So maybe just for this, I'm going to move this guy from here, 50 mil, and then just copy this guy. Copy, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then mirror that from the middle line, shift, right click, midpoint, from there to there, done. Okay, now I'm just going to make this a block, select objects, pick a point, sorry, pick a point, I'm going to work from shift middle, somewhere over here, call this bench. Okay, cool. Now I've got a bench, now I can simply put my bench, shift R, and then move this away. Okay, we could use wipeouts. There is a tool that will allow us to do a wipeout to delete the stuff at the bottom, but you could just simply use a trim tool. And here, so you're going to say trim tool, T for crossing, and you're going to select these objects, and now you can trim your hatch. Okay, all right, I see this is not enjoying this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to the one side and rehatch this hatch. Pick this again and just say match. Okay. All right. So here you can see it's hatched afterwards. Here it's still missing out stuff. It should have picked up those. Yeah, because we've got those openings there. That's why. So we're going to say hatch. So here, remember, associated, pick this guy. So if you want to see these floor gaps between here, just make sure. Okay. And then these ones we can match. So here you can use the same origin. So we can copy those origins across, which it has. Okay. I did move them hatch, so let's just move this line from there to there. Select this hatch and then change its pick origin there. Oh, there we go. Okay. Likewise with this. So let's copy these guys. C as copy. Select this guy. So let's put a bench. I'll just put a bench here in the corner. Just remember, spacebar, if you grab that grip point, it'll give you commands to work with. So here I can put this bench over here and then copy this bench. Or you can just simply click on this grip and then say C for copy. It'll do the same thing. Click this grip again, spacebar. I just have one activated, spacebar. Then we can move this. Let's move it over here somewhere. That's good for now. So this one, I can move these together. So let's move this one to there, just like that. We can reproduce something similar to this. Let's move this guy there to there, perpendicular. Let's move this guy from there to there, perpendicular. Okay. And then just move this away 100. And then move this away 100. And you can just put a bin in the corner here. So it's just showing you then hatch. And just remember, match properties, you want them to be in the same layer. Okay, must be on hatch. Must be on the hatch layer, which it is. And then this one we can specify its origin again. Okay, with this hatch activated, we can just simply add in these little open pieces here in the middle as well. Okay. But, I mean, for the sake of it, you don't really have to go through that much detail. Okay, so we can go and add those. Here's a problem here. So that hatch must match that hatch. This one's origins are different. That's why. So that one we're going to have to do the same. So line. Select this hatch over here. It should all adjust. Yeah, pick origin. There we go. This hatch I'm going to do all over again. So this hatch I'm just going to go and say hatch, there, 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 There. You've got to have the hole in your zoom. Okay. I didn't delete why I didn't make them. That's the strangest thing. Anyway, let's just say hatch again, hatch again. Now I'm just going to put it in here. There. Spacebar. Hatch again. There. Oh yeah, you got to have the hole. That's correct. There, and there. Done. Okay, and now these are all got the same origin. So the last origin that we set will work with those as well. You can see it's working fine. Okay, so there we've got our benches. We start looking at our plan. Just unlock this viewport. 20. Okay, 1 to 50 will work better. It's just there's going to be a slight issue with our line weights, but so be it. Okay, but you can see those line weights are starting to work well. Okay, this line weight I might have to adjust because that is too thick for that. Technically, we're not cutting through it. Okay, 1 to 50. Open space. One to 50. Lock your viewport because that's important. And now we can just simply start adjusting we can adjust our viewport to match the view a bit better. Okay. But we still got a lot to do, so we'll get into that next. But for the time being, we've got our basic drawing set up nicely. Now for the last step, we'll then just have to go but you can see this is starting to work well. So it's just the last thing I need to do. Yeah, this hatch, specify origin there. Okay, likewise with these other ones, specify origin there. There we go. Specify origin. That one didn't work either, so that one we just need to specify origin. There. Oh, okay, that's all working good. Okay, so your furniture is usually a grade outline. It depends, but in this instance, I'm happy with the way this is looking. So all the next thing I do is just got to tone down. So in here, I'm just going to make sure all of these layers. So remember, I need to update this information. So activate your viewport. Now, Control A. Okay, those ones, cancel. Just make sure all your layers are on the correct. Okay, so again, I'm going to select all of those guys, press cancel. So control. The rest of those will be the furniture layer. I'll put it on a darker layer in this instance just because the way I want it to work. Now I just want to fix my line weights. Okay, so for now the last thing I want to do my furniture layer is that's good. It's just my wall layer. This wall exterior. Change that to 0.3. For this I'm going to make it 0.3. Okay, 0.3. All I'm going to do now is just make sure that I update this. Yes, close, and then close this. It should work a lot better. Okay, you can use the regen command, and now that wall line work looks a lot better. Okay, so now that's starting to work. So this is starting to work pretty well. This we could give a stone hatch as well. We could use the same stone hatches we got there. Our concrete is looking good. The line weights are looking good. This, I might have to narrow this down a bit, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, so this layer, we can offset this again. So this will offset another 5 mil. That'll improve that. Just remember, undo. If you don't want to see the line weights, just switch them off. So that one, I'm going to delete this layer. And then just this bit of line work, I'll grab this point over here and drag it down to more or less in the middle. F3, F8. In the middle somewhere. Likewise with this. Somewhere over here in the middle. This doesn't have to be accurate, okay? That they'll tuck into there. This they'll tuck into here. Okay, now we can switch our line weights back on. That's perfect. Perfect. Okay, so we could even, this is still too strong. This 0.5, I'll need to fix that. So let's just quickly go and look in here. So I'm just doing some fine tuning. So DPM, let's make this 0.5. 0.4. That will make a massive difference. And then my concrete layer, I'm also going to turn down a bit. My concrete's still a bit. No, the concrete I'll leave like that. Okay, good. Just remember, I need to update. I'll need to update this guy. Update. Yes. Otherwise, it won't keep those. Okay. So that's all looking good. Kidori. Okay, great. So here we can see our DPM layer, that layer in the background. Just remember, display orders, draw order. Here, if it looks funny like that, just remember you can use your draw orders. So bring objects to front. Okay, so you can change these draw orders of these objects. Okay, the shortcut key is you just select this object, draw order, and say F front. There we go. Okay, exactly that. Okay, this one I might want to bring in front of that other one just so it reads better. So this bit of line work here, draw front. Okay, so now you can see there's my DPM in the background. Okay, good. Okay, so that's it for the drawing. Now the next part of the video, we're going to focus on setting up the annotation.